Hi guys, thanks for joining. We're going to do a quick tutorial on specifically adding a Kantech Entrapass Workstation to an existing system. If you have any specific questions, please feel free to email me or contact me on the link provided in the description. And don't forget to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I hope to do a lot of these, and the more questions and requests, the more content we can have. So basically what I'm doing here is I have TeamViewer up, and what we're looking at right now is the desktop for the server where Entrapass is currently installed. And over here we have the desktop for the client workstation where we're going to be installing the new Entrapass workstation. I should note before we get started that you need to be a Kantech certified technician in order to do this, even just to obtain the software and registration codes. If you're not, contact Kantech through Kantech.com, or feel free to reach out to me and I can help you find your local Kantech rep. But I guess let's get started. So we're looking at the server workstation right now, which we're going to assume has already been installed. And we're going to start just by logging in. I should mention now that you should definitely change the installer username and password from Kantech to something different. I'm going to go ahead and expand this. So we're logged on to the server itself, and we're logged on to the server workstation. And if you are ever not sure, a quick way to check this, if you go to the status tab in database, you can see right now, if we click on the word server workstation, it'll tell us down below computer connected. If we go to the other two workstations which haven't been installed yet and I highlight them, they'll say computer not connected. So that's a good sign that another workstation hasn't been installed yet. The next part we're going to go to actually shows us if it has. So we're going to go over to the options tab, then registration, and then under the components you can see these two installation codes. Now mine says first time connected 7/20/2017. That's because I've already had this workstation connected and I uninstalled it for reasons of just doing the tutorial for this video. However, if you haven't installed an additional workstation yet, this will be blank, the column that says first time connected, much like the second workstation says here. Now you'll notice in parentheses there's a 2 and a 3. It's just assumed that workstation number 1 is the one that's on the server that we're actually onto right now. So the 2 additional workstations that the software comes with are labeled by default 2 and 3. And if you need more, you can always get more. It's a license purchase from your local dealer. But the first step here actually is just to gather some information, and you can see I keep Notepad up just so I can copy and paste. I like to use Dropbox or something else to gather my notes, so I'm not fumbling around in front of the customer. I like to try and move along as quickly as possible. One of the first things we're going to need to do is actually find out what the IP address for the server is if you don't know it. One of the quickest way to do this is from the server itself. Just type CMD or command, either CMD or spell out command, and press enter from the search bar down here. If you have a Windows 10 or something newer, it might look a little similar, but basically you're just looking for a search bar. Server 2012, 2016, you'll be in the top right area to find your search. So we're gonna type in CMD, press enter. Here's our little command window. I'm gonna type in IP config. You guys want to see what that is? Press enter, and we're basically looking for a network adapter, or Ethernet LAN adapter, local area network. Tells us that we're using 10.2.1.5. So I'm going to go over here. I'm just going to type that in there. It's good to keep that information for service guys, or if you don't have it already, just store that information. It makes life a lot easier. Done with this window, I'm going to type exit, press enter, goes away. I have that stored in my notepad. The next thing I'm going to want is I'm going to want this installation code for workstation number 2. This guy right here. And if you double click in Kantech, it brings it up big, which is kind of nice for someone like me who can't see very well. So I'm not going to type in the dashes. I'm just going to 3F Delta 8 2 Foxtrot 288 B5. Okay. That's my workstation code for the first additional workstation. And if I was doing a couple of them, I'd probably gather them all right now. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to highlight this and click Edit. This allows me to name that workstation. And I'm going to type in Brett's workstation. That's my name. That comes in handier too, also for service guys. If they want to come in a year or two later, you see that a workstation is registered, it helps them figure out where that actual workstation is located. When you'll notice right now, it's not locked, and it's not locked for authentication. If this had been previously used, one of those checkbox would be locked. And I'll do another demonstration later on how to unregister, uninstall, and then move software later. If you guys have a demand for it, I'll definitely do that. So all I've done so far basically is copy down the registration code. I've determined what the local IP address is for the server is. I've typed in the description for the workstation. And now I want to put in a password, something that I can remember. And this can be anything that you want. And it's not super critical, because you can always come in here and reset it if you forget. So I have that information. I'm not gonna put the password in here. I typically don't store passwords unless I'm using a program such as KeyPass or something encrypted. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to determine exactly what version of the software the server is running. Cannot install a different version of the workstation software. It has to be exactly the same. So we're done with this registration box. I'm just going to click close. I'm going to go up into the help about section. And I already know, but it's going to tell me that I'm using version 7.11.10. Okay. So now I'm done with the server side for a moment. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to switch screens. Now we're looking at the workstation where we're actually going to install the Entrapass Kantech Workstation. So I'm going to go ahead, and I've already downloaded the software from the Kantech website. Again, if you don't have this software, you don't have a login, you'll need to contact a certified Kantech representative. You won't be able to get it otherwise. But let's go. I've already unzipped it, downloaded it for this demonstration. Let's open it up, and I'm going to go down to the setup file, and I'm going to run this as an administrator. You want to make sure you're in a local administrator when you run this up. We're just going to follow this through. I'm going to use English. And we are going to switch back to the server while that's started real quick. I'm going to go to this notepad. I'm going to copy this down. And TeamViewer is a great tool if you don't have it already. I'd highly recommend it. I'm going to paste this information on my notepad so that I have it on my workstation here. Click next here. What we want to do is we want to choose this. Install an additional workstation. Now you'll probably have noticed from the last screen, there is no option to download just the workstation software. It's the complete install file. So, and if you're a Kantech tech, you already know that. We're going to choose just the additional workstation. I'm going to click next, and you'll see that it's already asking me for that workstation ID. So I'm going to put some spaces in this, just so it's a little easier for me to read. Can't copy paste, so we're just going to type that in. This is kind of a boring part. And if you have the code typed correctly, you'll see the next goes bold. So we're just going to click on that. Accept the terms. Click next. I'm just going to put my name in here. Click next. And the installation will begin. Now, it takes quite a few minutes for the install to run. And on some machines, you'll notice they may seem to lock up. Just be patient. It's a very powerful, large program. There are a lot of things that need to go in place, prerequisites, so on and so forth, to make the software function properly. So just be patient with it. While this is running, we'll probably switch back to the server just to look at a couple things on here. If we go to the desktops tab, I haven't changed anything here. This is the live events and basically monitoring windows that you can customize and set up. If I go to my desktop's one screen, it's going to show me recent information. And while we're connecting and registering from the other computer, we're going to see events and logins on this screen. So this is a great troubleshooting tool. It's also just a good place to constantly come to understand how the system works, what kind of messages it'll give you as you're connecting with the software, using card reads, so on and so forth. So we'll just check on the status of this. Seems like it's going pretty quickly. It shouldn't be too much longer, and we'll be able to register. Now, back on the server, there are a couple firewall ports that we need to make sure are open. And there is this document here. If you guys want a copy of this, let me know. It has the typical listening ports, and this changes from time to time. This, I believe, is an older one. But if you look here under Workstation, that Workstation communicates on TCP port 18101. So we're going to want to make sure that on the local firewall, that port is opened. So let's just go back to our server while we're waiting for the installation. And I'm going to look at the firewall here. Now, I know it's open because I had it installed earlier, but I'll just kind of walk you through the process I go through. Okay, I have the firewall turned off, but let's probably turn the firewall back on. And we'll create a pinhole for that. You may have something else monitoring your firewall or basically running your firewall. So everybody's going to look a little bit differently, but the idea is basically the same. So we want to create an inbound rule. And I'm taking a look here. I don't see one for Entrapass. So I see a couple here. But let's create a new rule. We're going to allow a port, TCP port, and just to refresh what we had looked at, we're looking at port 18101 for the workstation. So we're going to enter that here. Click next, allow the connection on all three profiles. And I'm going to call it Entrapass Workstation. It's not necessary to do the description, but it does help. Now I have my pinhole created. I'm going to close my firewall, switch over to the workstation, and see how we're doing. Okay, so it's actually uninstalling part of my previous installation that I thought I had uninstalled before the demonstration, but it seems to be going along pretty well. Sometimes you'll notice down in the right hand corner is where some of the setup animations are, but I'll just minimize those so you can kind of see what's going on here. This is towards the end of the installation. Don't be surprised if it takes a good 30-40 minutes sometimes, depending on the computer. All right. Looks like we are very close. These components are some of the video drivers. If you use or are going to use a video integration, you'll want to make sure it installs those. I do not like choosing launch a workstation automatically with Windows. However, if this is installed at a security personnel's desk or a guard's desk, you might want to choose that. Just because sometimes these icons here get deleted, and those guys aren't really sure always where to find it. Another good thing to do is bring that icon and just pin it to the taskbar. We're going to click next. And I'm not going to restart our computer, although you should, but we don't have a ton of time. So I'm going to go ahead and launch the workstation. Now remember, we're on the client now. Now the first time it launches, it's going to want to connect to its server. We have not given that information. So what it's doing right here, the registration is saying, hey, where do I connect to? Where's my database? Well, for our demo, it's just a local area network. And if you guys run into something more complicated, please send me what you're looking at, and we can do a demonstration on and try to mimic that network configuration. But in this case, it's a very simple IP on a local network. So what it's asking for is, where is my server? So good thing, whoops, excuse me, I popped up the wrong one. It's a good thing that we copied that over. We already know, if we don't have it memorized already, 10.2.1.5. Now, see that local port? That's the one we opened on the firewall on the server. And the password is the one we set under options registration, if you guys remember that. It's one of the first things we did. So I'm going to click OK. It's going to try to establish a connection. I'm guessing my firewall rule did not work, because it should have come back already. While it's trying to establish a connection, I can go back here. Other than my network having some issues, I do not see the workstation trying to connect. I should see that from Brett's workstation. I go here, server unavailable 1700. Okay. So I missed a port, basically, on my local firewall. So let's look at that list again. I think there is a registration port that is required to be opened, at least temporarily. Which port is that? It could be one of these. Tell you what, let's just turn off our firewall temporarily. And guys, when I figure out which port that is, I'll update this video with a comment. And if you guys know, please comment too. For me, please. Okay. So when I had the firewall, you can actually see that's why I had my network communication fail. For my controllers, it's because I don't have that actually set up yet. So let's try this again. So there's more than one port for the workstation. I think I did know that. 1.5. Although I do believe this is the only port that needs to remain open. I think there's one other port that needs to be open while this registration is taking place. Okay, so that's the what we want to see. Authentication completed successfully. Well, if I hit close, we're on the workstation now. Go through the normal startup procedure, and we should get our login page. While that's logging in, I'm going to peek at this. Look, is there a registration port? I have a feeling it's one of these guys here. And back here you can see on the server, authentication completed successfully, Brett's workstation. And this was our request earlier. And if we go to that status database tab, you can now, when we highlight this, remember from the beginning it just had the 2 and it said workstation and it said not connected. Now it says computer connected. That's how we know that our workstation is connected to the server, although we aren't logged in. But anytime you have this open, the server knows. So next thing we're doing is we're just gonna check our login, password, and there we are. So folks, that's easy. That's how it is for a local setup on a local network with Kantech Entrapass Workstation. Of course, there are a lot of different variations of that, and please let me know. Again, any questions, comments, things to add. I definitely don't know everything. I'm just here to share my experience and the way I do it. I'm always looking for suggestions too. Please like, subscribe to my channel. We're going to be doing a lot of Kantech, TechVision, Tyco products, a lot of alarm system, DSC, DMP, you name it. And send me a request. Thanks guys, hope you enjoyed.